Hey, what's up YouTube? Lightsaber Samurai here. I'm back again with another video, and I got two questions for you. What is your favorite console of all time, and why is it the PlayStation 2? The PlayStation 2 was a fantastic console that had so many great games. So many, in fact, that there are a lot more great games that went under the radar. So in this video, we will attempt to rectify that just a little bit more. I got 5 more hidden gems for you, so without further ado, let's talk about it. Okay guys, so the first game on our list is a game by Konami, and this was brought to us by the producer of the Castlevania series, in particular Castlevania Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness, that also came out on the PS2. This is Nanobreaker, and in particular I really wanted to talk about this because Nanobreaker takes place in the futuristic year of 2021. Yes, in this future, nanomachine technology has really taken off. The United States has set up an island base called Nanomachine Island, where they get a brain trust of the world's foremost scientists and businessmen and got them together to really advance technology. By the time 2021 rolls around, the island is in utter chaos, and it is up to you, a cyborg named Jake, to find out what's happening and basically to save the day, as it were. In this game, you play as Jack. Like I said, he is a cyborg that wields a plasma blade, and this plasma blade, as the game goes on, it can shapeshift into a bunch of other different weapons, like a scythe. You can turn it into a hammer and other things like that. The combat in this game is actually pretty decent. Starting out, you won't have but like a 3 or 4 hit combo, but as the game goes on and you get stronger, you will be able to add more combos. You'll be able to incorporate the changing of your plasma blade into that, so you can start with a couple of plasma sword swipes, some quick swipes, and then end with a powerful plasma hammer attack, things like that. Blood is the currency in the system, and the more enemies you slay and the more gallons of blood you spill, that will determine when you get your new power-ups and things like that. Kind of a cool concept. The blood in this game looks pretty ridiculous, though. Not necessarily in a bad way, but not in a good way either. And so with that, I guess it's time to talk about the game's graphics. Now, the graphics are a bit of a mixed bag. Like I said, the blood looks silly. I mean, it flows well, and you'll see it, spurt from all directions, depending on where you hit the enemy, which is kind of cool. Again, this was brought to us by the producer of the Castlevania games on the PlayStation 2, and you can really tell that in the graphics too. I suspect that they use the same game engine, or maybe just a slightly modified version of that game engine. Character models look really good. As far as the way it runs at a constant frame rate. I didn't notice anything like slowdown or any pausing like that. Screen tearing also seems to be at a minimum, although this is a later PlayStation 2 game. This came out in 2005, so that's probably the reason why. Environments, also, while they look good, they could be more detailed. I wish they had more stuff in them. You've got that kind of Castlevania syndrome of just having large, just kind of open rooms as you go from area to area. It all looks pretty pleasant, though, save for the silly looking blood. All in all, this is a pretty good game, and it's hovering around the $15-ish mark last time I checked. I think that this one will be rare in the future, simply because it came out toward the end of the PlayStation 2's life, and the Metacritic score on it was like 54%. So I think that I recommend this game. You guys know I'm into the hack and slash stuff anyway, so if you see this game, definitely pick it up. Okay, let's keep the hacking and slashing going with the next game on the list. This is a game brought to us by Capcom in 2003, and this is Chaos Legion. Now, I remember when this game came out, and I think it even says so on the back. Yeah, it says so on the back. If you love Devil May Cry, you'll love Chaos Legion. This game came out as kind of an answer to Devil May Cry, even though they're both from Capcom, but a lot of people thought that this was going to be kind of like a Devil May Cry killer, or at least like a kind of continuation on the Devil May Cry recipe, but it falls a little short. I'll talk about that in a minute. This game takes place in ancient times. The game itself is based off of a novel of the same name, and basically you play as a Dark Knight of the Glyphs, I think is the name of the organization. The guy you play is a guy named Sieg. He's out to track down and stop his best friend Victor Delacroix from obtaining this dark book and releasing this dark spirit that he wants to use to bring about Armageddon and basically cleanse the world of all its sins by summoning all these monsters to basically destroy the world so you can start over, yada yada yada. There's also some intrigue where Victor thinks Sieg killed his girl back in the day or something like that they got going on with their beef. But anyway, the game is actually, it's pretty decent. As a hack and slash game, you got your kind of standard flair of combos. You got a little dodge roll as you move through the levels. But the main difference between this and Devil May Cry is the lack of locomotion and the lack of mobility. And this is one of those games where you can tell, like, he really wants to be able to move like Dante. You can see it in the controls, but you know, you won't see any fast running or flips or double jumps or wall running or anything like that in this game. And even with the hack and slash, it's pretty bare bones as well compared to a lot of games in the genre. But that changes when you get access to your legions, very similar to the innocent devils that you can get in Castlevania Curse of Darkness. Your legions you can summon to fight by your side. You have slight control over them. You can give them basic commands like kind of go on the offense or go on the defense. You can level them up as the game progresses and give them new abilities as they get stronger, and once they really get up there, they can you can do combo attacks, I think called assist attacks, where you guys can defeat enemies together and things like that. Of course, while your legion is summoned, Sieg isn't as mobile, and his hits don't hit as hard as they normally do without the summoning of the I almost said the innocent devils, of the legions. That being said, gameplay wise, the gameplay is okay. It's not as good as Devil May Cry or even Castlevania for that matter, but it's still a pretty fun time. Graphics wise, the graphics are fantastic. This is Capcom, you know, in the early 2000s, they were really putting out some hits. Despite the fact that, in my opinion, this is kind of on the lower tier. The game is absolutely beautiful. The lighting effects are fantastic. It had some really cool particle effects. The textures was nice. The frame rate was smooth. The loading times were fairly quick. The cutscenes looked absolutely fantastic with the CGI cutscenes. All in all, I thought this was a pretty solid game, despite the fact it didn't quite live up to the Devil May Cry hype that they were kind of, you know, creating for it. Chaos Legion is still a really good game in its own right. Last I checked, this game was about $20-ish, $20 to $30 you can have, and you can probably find it cheaper than that, but I definitely think that this one's going to be on the rarer side in the future as well. So if you see it, definitely go ahead and add it to the collection. Okay, next up I have a game that actually started out on the PSP and was ported over to the PlayStation 2, and on that note, that's kind of actually like a sub-collecting goal of mine. I do want to collect all the PlayStation 2 games that were originally PSP ports because they're, you know, remastered, the graphics are better, and the controls were updated for dual analog sticks and all that. So the PlayStation 2 versions of these games play best on the PlayStation 2. But anyway, we got to talk about Siphon Filter Dark Mirror in particular because you guys forgot about your boy Gabe Logan. You know, in the PlayStation 2 era, it was all about Solid Snake as far as these types of games go. Sons of Liberty came out early in the PlayStation 2's life, and it was really one of the first killer apps for the system. Late in the PlayStation's life, they finished off with the excellent Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. Meanwhile, the Siphon Filter games produced Siphon Filter the Omega Strain, which really failed to live up to even what the previous games were doing on the PlayStation 1. And so it looked like it was basically over for Siphon Filter, and Gabe Logan was on the ropes. But then these guys, they put out a really good game in Dark Mirror on the PlayStation Portable. It played so much like a PlayStation 2 game, and like an updated shooter, that it got a port and it plays fantastic on the PlayStation 2. You play as Gabe Logan in this, which was a nice return to form, because Omega Strain, you played as a bunch of randos who took orders from Gabe. You and Leon Zing are back to your old tricks. The game starts off where you're taking down this terrorist organization who's taking control of a pipeline in Alaska. Of course, the Siphon Filter virus will make an appearance, and you'll end up globetrotting all across the world. A lot of changes between this and the original games that were hardcore kind of, click, auto aim, run and gun action shooters. This one has a more measured pace. It plays more like a cover-based shooter, and in fact there's a really strong cover mechanic in this game where you kind of pop out and take out enemies, so you have to be a little bit more methodical. You can still run out and take out enemies, run and gun style. However, the camera orientation has changed to a behind the shoulder view, so you can't really kind of run in one direction and kind of shoot the Tech 9 one-handed like you could in the previous Siphon Filter game. So again, a much more measured pace. The graphics, they carried over from the PlayStation Portable really nicely, and the graphics on the PS2 look really good for the time, and I think they still hold up. Again, I don't see any major frame rate issues or long load times, in addition to the graphics being actually pretty smooth and fairly detailed. It's a bit of a dark game though, but most PlayStation 2 games were. This one and its sequel, which we will take a look at in the near future, you can get both of these games together for less than $30, and these are some of the best Siphon Filter games that nobody's ever talked about, really. So if you can find these on the PlayStation 2, or if you can find them for the PSP, definitely get them. Again, I would suggest getting the PS2 version, because you got things like dual analog stick control and things like that. I don't think they added new content, but the fresh coat of paint and the updated controls makes this a really good cover-based third-person shooter on the PlayStation 2. Okay, moving on to the penultimate title on the list, and looking at a game that I didn't even know exists, and from a franchise that I didn't even know got a sequel. On the PlayStation 2, courtesy of Crete Studios and published by Game Factory. This is Biker Mice from Mars. Again, I remember the TV show back in the day, like in the early mid-90s, and I also remember the Super Nintendo game that came out. It was kind of a top-down isometric racing game. It was okay, but those were never my favorite types of games, so it was just kind of alright. But I saw this and for less than $10, so I saw it and was like, what the heck? I went ahead and picked it up because that was the first time I had seen the game out in the wild. I don't think I've seen it since, so it's not super expensive, but I don't think it's very common either. In this game, it starts out on Mars. There is a war going on between the mice and the Catatonian Empire. They are fighting for control of the planet. There is a device called the Regenerator, which is basically a terraforming device. The mice want to use it to terraform Mars and create a safe haven for mice everywhere. The Catatonians want the device to claim Mars for themselves, and so they're going back and forth for it. Now, there is a general named General Stoker who either created the device, or he's the only one that knows how to fix it. He fled to Earth to go get supplies for the machine, but then he disappeared while he was down there. So another general sends an elite combat unit of mice to go down to Mars to retrieve him before the Catatonians do, hence the Biker Mice from Mars. And this game takes place on the planet Earth in Chicago. Okay, so the Super Nintendo version of this game was an isometric racing game, but this one kind of blends a bunch of different elements. It's classified as a racing game, but a racing game in the sense that Spy Hunter on the PlayStation 2 is a racing game. You'll spend a lot of your time on your motorcycle driving through the track-style levels, blowing up enemies that get in your way, picking up power-ups, and energy boost and things like that, kind of your standard flair. But then there are a lot of interior sections where you will get off of your bike and roam around these interior environments, and then in that point it becomes like a third-person beat-em-up game. Both styles work pretty well. The controls are not the best, especially on the bike. The controls are kind of twitchy and floaty at the same time, if such a thing is possible. The controls, you can get used to them, but you never get used to them 100%. You'll still, find times where you just randomly take a hard turn and, get yourself all out of whack and miss jumps and things like that, but it's okay in time. Same thing for the fighting mechanics. The fighting mechanics don't feel super deep, but you can bust out some combos, and then when you're on foot, you got a separate set of power-ups as well, like brass knuckles and the like, that you can use to take out enemies even faster. Graphics, it uses kind of like a cel-shaded style, and the graphics, they're okay. They're sort of bland, but they got a decent amount of color, but not so much in the detail department. As far as the sound, I can't remember the music. The music itself is pretty generic and unforgettable. The dialogue is filled with cheesy one-liners a la Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV show from the 80s, or the Battletoads game. It's chock full of like 90s tude, which is kind of a throwback and kind of refreshing in a way, honestly, that the game itself doesn't take itself too serious. Again, this game is still around the $10 mark and below. I picked up my copy for $7.99, and I definitely got $7.99 worth of entertainment from it. So if you see it, if you are a fan of the franchise, if you really like the Super Nintendo version and just want to add the sequel to your collection, I definitely suggest picking it up. Okay, and the final game on this list, courtesy of Atari, of course on the PlayStation 2, this is Kaya Dark Lineage, and this is a fantastic third-person action platformer game. Like I said, published by Atari and developed, I think, by Eden Games. Fun fact, this game, Legend of Kaya Dark Lineage, it came out just before the Legend of Korra TV show on Nickelodeon, and initially they were going to name their main protagonist Kaya, but since they had to show Legend of what would have been Legend of Kaya, they didn't want to get sued by Atari, so they changed their name to Korra last minute. So that's a fun fact for you. Anyway, this game takes place, you are Kaya, her and her brother Frank are in the present in our world, just chilling out at home when they hear a strange noise. They go to investigate, and she finds her brother Frank in this room of the basement that they've never seen before. He puts together this puzzle, and then they're both whisked off to this parallel universe where she runs into a group of strange creatures called natives. Shortly after, they get chased down by a group of werewolves called the Wolfen and make it back to the home base called Native City. She's been separated from her brother, so quickly her goal is to find out what happened to her brother, as well as kind of save these natives from the Wolfen, which turns out these are actually just natives who have been turned into Wolfen by Brazul is his name, and he's the main antagonist of the game. He does it with his dark magic. So you decide to help the natives, and you're off to the races. This game, like I said, third-person action platformer, but it doesn't have like it really takes on some cool mechanics. This game is heavily based around air, and in a lot of sections in this game you'll find yourself in free fall sections where you're kind of flying through the air, dodging obstacles, and then you'll fall on this giant flower at the end of your run, which serves as an airbag. You'll get through a lot of you'll traverse a lot of the world using that method. You can get on air currents that'll whisk you up high and whisk you off to the left and to the right and things like that, and all of it looks fantastic considering this game's great graphics. I really like the graphics. It's a nice, colorful cartoon art style, and that really just helps the sensation of flying through the air when you're on these air currents, or when you're just in all just kind of traversing through the levels. Combat in this game is my favorite aspect, though, and this isn't like, your dad's kind of hop and jump on the enemy and then they kind of blow up or disappear type of thing. No, Kaya kicks a lot of ass with these two bracelets that they give her, and she has access to a bunch of all these cool martial arts moves, and she'll punch and kick and throw and grapple and knee enemies, and she'll back backflip kick, and it switches into slow motion when you deal out like the final hit. And the combat is super fun and satisfying in this game. In addition to your close quarters combat, you'll get a boomerang, which you can use as a ranged attack to hit enemies with. You can upgrade it to a silver boomerang, which allows you to kind of aim it. Like we've seen in a lot of games before, you can kind of throw it and aim it once it's in the air to find your target to pull off headshots and things like that. You can also upgrade it again to activate different levers and things to solve puzzles in the game. You also get a variety of different types of bombs that you can throw as well for ranged weapons. So they got you covered close quarters or ranged. You can also take over like gun turrets and things like that. And so the combat in this game is super dope. Once you beat up a wolf enough, you even get a power to exercise them and turn them back into natives, which you're gonna want to do because the more natives that you, the more wolfen that you exercise and turn back into natives, then they'll head back to Native City. And the larger the population of that city gets, then new shops will open up, which will give you access to new weapons and items. New training dojos will open up, which will give you more access to different abilities and things like that. So all in all, this is a super fantastic game. I'm not quite sure what it's going for right now. I think it's still going for pretty cheap, and I'm actually on the lookout for a new copy because I got a Blockbuster copy that's kind of beat up looking. So I want just like a clean copy. That one doesn't have a manual either. So I'm looking for Kaya Dark Lineage Complete, and I think last I saw it in the Complete, it was like 15 bucks. So it shouldn't be too hard for me to snag up, but I suggest you guys do the same thing. If you haven't added this to your collection yet, definitely do so. I don't know if it's ever going to become rare, but that doesn't really matter. This is a game that you really need to play, especially if you are into third-person platforming games. Okay, guys, so I do believe that's all I got for you, but let's talk about it in the comment section below. Questions, comments, concerns, threats. What are some more PlayStation 2 hidden gems that we can take a look at in the future? As always, if you guys like this content, go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. You'll be glad you did. I do believe that's all I got for you. Lightsaber Samurai out. Peace.